Hey guys, tonight we slip into fur boots and step onto the creaking planks of a Viking longship, the smell of pine tar and wet rope hanging heavy in the air. Torches flicker along the shore, throwing shadows over anxious faces, you included, because this isn't just any voyage. This is your first raid, the first time you're about to test whether all that training, all that shouting, and all those bone-chilling rituals actually made you ready. You can hear the gulls crying overhead, but they sound less like birds and more like mocking voices reminding you that you probably won't survive this. Still, your hands tighten around the oar, knuckles white, because backing down isn't an option. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're watching right now, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The ship pushes off with a groan, and the cold sea splashes over your boots. The air tastes of salt and wood smoke. The older warriors row as if their arms are iron, while you try to match their rhythm without looking like a weakling. Your heart beats too fast, and every ripple of the water feels like it might expose you. The coastline of your homeland shrinks into a thin strip. While the endless unknown spreads before you like a dare, historians still argue whether young berserkers like you were chosen early for special training or whether anyone could fall into the madness if desperate enough. What you do know is this: you've been pushed, tested, screamed at, and probably knocked over with a wooden shield more times than you can count just to get here. That first step onto the longship is more than a journey, it's a verdict. The sail unfurls, catching the wind with a loud snap that makes everyone's heads turn, and suddenly the ship glides faster. The prow is carved like a dragon's head, gaping maw open as though it too wants to devour something across the horizon. You can't help but imagine yourself the same way, hungry, teeth bared, ready to tear into whatever village your leaders point you toward. But deep down, you also wonder whether you'll freeze up when steel actually bites flesh. One of the veterans, his beard streaked with gray and his eyes wide as if he never sleeps, leans over and growls, "First raid, boy." You nod, trying not to tremble. He chuckles, then chews something from a pouch at his belt. Rumors say it's henbane or some other cursed herb, something that makes the mind burn hot and reckless. Historians still debate whether such plants really fueled the frenzy or if that's just saga exaggeration. Either way, you make a note not to steal from his pouch unless you're ready to see colors you've never seen before. The sea grows rough, waves slapping the sides, and you realize the ship isn't just transport, it's training too. Every jolt tests your grip, every splash tests your tolerance for discomfort. Someone at the bow starts humming an old song, a slow, low tune that makes the hair on your neck rise. It's not cheerful, it's not for comfort, it's a reminder that you're rowing towards something dangerous. And maybe death is closer than landfall. Still, you look around and notice the faces of your comrades. Some are calm, others manic, a few muttering prayers to Odin under their breath. That's when the reality strikes you: each man here has chosen to risk his skin for glory, for silver, or simply because the chieftain said so. You're not special yet, you're just another body in the boat. The berserker path might change that, if you survive. The night falls, and the stars pierce the sky like 1,000 watching eyes. You lie back on the hard planks, water dripping down from the sail ropes onto your forehead. You try to close your eyes, but every creak, every whisper, every sudden splash keeps you awake. Someone jokes about sea monsters, how a kraken could rise and drag the ship under. You laugh weakly, though you can't shake the thought. Fun fact: sailors in the Viking Age really did believe in monstrous sea serpents, and even cartographers centuries later drew them on maps. Historians still argue whether these were based on sightings of whales or just a collective need to explain the unexplainable. Morning finally creeps over the waves. Gray and cold. Land appears on the horizon, a foreign coast. The longship rows closer, and you can see smoke curling from distant huts. Your stomach flips, because this isn't just practice anymore. This is where you prove yourself, where the madness inside you either wakes up or fails you completely. Your comrades start to paint their faces with streaks of ash and red ochre. Some gnaw their shields until splinters stick in their lips. You copy the motions awkwardly, smearing soot across your cheeks, hoping it makes you look less terrified. The veteran beside you grins, blackened teeth bared. Now you look like one of us. The ship grinds onto the shore with a shudder, the dragon prow staring down the beach. Feet splash into the shallows, shields clatter into position, and swords scrape free. You follow, breath ragged, sand cold beneath your toes. The first raid jitters are real, and you're about to find out whether you'll crumble or roar like the beast you've trained to become. Your boots sink into wet sand as you trudge inland, trying to hide how shaky your legs feel. The village up ahead looks deceptively peaceful, just wooden huts with smoke curling from the chimneys, a couple of goats nibbling on weeds. It doesn't exactly scream epic destiny. And yet, you know what's about to happen will echo in the sagas. You'll either die looking foolish, or you'll taste that berserker fury your elders keep promising will hit like a thunderbolt. Training for this moment wasn't gentle. Back home, long before you even touched a real sword, they threw you into mock fights where bruises were medals and blood on your lip was practically expected. You remember stumbling in the practice yard. Shield slipping from your hands, only for the drill master to whack you so hard with his wooden axe that you couldn't chew for 2 days. He called it tough love. You called it a free trip to the healer's hut. Still, lesson learned, never let go of your shield. What made berserker training different from the standard Viking warrior drill was its strange, almost theatrical intensity. They didn't just teach you to swing a blade, they tried to rewire your brain. You were told to howl like a wolf until your throat burned, to gnaw at wood until your gums bled, to run barefoot across frozen ground until your skin felt like leather. Historians still argue whether this was pure psychology or if there really was something mystical about it. Either way, the rituals did one thing well, they made you look terrifying. And if your enemy thought you were half beast before the fight even began, you'd already won half the battle. There was also stamina training, oh, lots of it. Long runs through forests with rocks tied to your back, endless push-ups in the mud, wrestling drills until someone's shoulder popped out of its socket. One quirky tidbit. Some sagas claim berserkers practiced fighting naked, as if to show off their invulnerability. Whether that actually happened or was just poetic exaggeration, you're secretly glad you at least got to keep your trousers during training. Chafing in a battle frenzy would not be legendary. The strangest exercise, though, was what they called rage meditation. You'd sit in a smoky hall while elders chanted, banging drums or bones together, and you were supposed to let yourself slip into a half-trance. At first, you mostly coughed on the smoke and tried not to laugh. But one night, you swear something shifted. Your heart thumped louder, your vision tunneled, and when you looked at your hands, they were shaking like they belonged to someone else. The drill master called it touching the beast. You called it the time I thought I was going to faint. Back in the present, the beach raid is underway. The veterans charge first, shields up, shouting curses that echo across the water. You hang back just a heartbeat too long, and one of them slaps your helmet. Move! He roars, and suddenly your legs obey. The huts are closer now, villagers screaming, chickens scattering. A man with nothing but a pitchfork dares to stand in the doorway. And you see your comrade cut him down without hesitation. Your stomach twists, but your training reminds you, hesitation is a luxury you can't afford. You raise your shield, the weight surprisingly comforting, and push forward. Every practice drill comes back to you, the rhythm of blocking, the angle of a downward strike, the way to pivot on your heel so you don't trip on uneven ground. It's clumsy, but it works. When a villager swings a club at you, your shield absorbs it, and your axe responds almost on its own. The sound it makes, wood splitting, bone cracking, is something no amount of training could prepare you for. You blink, heart hammering, realizing you're still standing. The veteran beside you grins. Not bad, pup. The chaos feels endless, screams, fire, smoke, but somewhere inside the storm, you notice yourself slipping into a strange focus. It's not quite frenzy, not yet, but your senses sharpen. Colors seem brighter, sounds sharper. You hear every clank of iron, every crackle of flame. It's as if the beast inside is stirring, still groggy, but awake enough to make you feel unstoppable. Historians still debate whether this berserker state was caused by drugs, madness, or sheer adrenaline. You don't care what caused it, you just know you're not afraid anymore. When the fighting ends, you stumble back toward the shore, chest heaving. The village smolders behind you, smoke twisting into the gray sky. Some of your comrades laugh, others sit silently, staring at their hands as if they don't recognize them. You sit too, and for the first time, you realize what it means to be a berserker in training. It's not just about rage, it's about surviving the first test and coming back hungry for the next one. Someone passes you a horn of mead, and you drink greedily, the sweetness cutting through the metallic tang in your mouth. You wipe your lips, glance at the others, and know that tonight, when the songs are sung, you'll no longer be the nervous recruit. You'll be part of the brotherhood of those who've tasted madness and lived. The veteran slaps your back so hard you nearly spill your drink. You'll do fine, he says with a crooked grin. And for the first time, you believe him. The next morning, after the smoke clears and the plunder is counted, your comrades gather around a fire. The flames dance on their faces, making the painted ash and smeared blood look even more grotesque. Someone starts humming that same low tune you heard on the ship, and the others join in, voices rumbling like a pack of wolves. You're tired, sore, and your knuckles still ache from gripping your axe too tight, but now you're about to step into the part of berserker life that's more theater than combat. Animal skins are brought out, wolf pelts, bear hides, sometimes even boar heads strapped like masks. One of the elders throws a heavy wolf pelt over your shoulders, the coarse fur scratching your neck. And immediately you feel different. He growls, not a man now. A beast. You're supposed to believe the spirit of the animal gives you strength. Maybe it's superstition, maybe it's intimidation, but either way, the effect is undeniable. You suddenly look a lot scarier than the farm boy you were a few weeks ago. Historians still argue whether berserkers really wore animal skins in battle or if that's saga exaggeration. Some say it was symbolic, others think it was literal. Either way, when you pull that pelt tight and let out a forced growl, you realize it's not about accuracy, it's about power. To the villagers who see you coming, you won't just be a man with an axe, you'll be a monster in fur. The rituals get weirder. You're told to mimic the beast. Snarl like a wolf, paw at the dirt like a bear, grind your teeth until your jaw aches. At first, you feel ridiculous, like a child playing pretend. But then you notice the way the others are watching you, nodding in approval. Their eyes widen when your voice cracks into something rougher, deeper. They don't laugh, they take it seriously. And so do you. One quirky tidbit. Some sources suggest berserkers even bit into their shields before combat, leaving jagged teeth marks in the wood. You give it a try, and instantly regret it, splinters wedge between your gums. You spit them out, but the others cheer. That's the spirit. They howl. You think, that's the dentist's nightmare, but you keep biting anyway because the madness isn't just a performance for others, it's a performance you eventually believe yourself. The training isn't all rituals, though. They pair it with practical drills. You're told to charge against a wall of shields again and again, not to break through, but to feel what it's like to be stopped and keep going anyway. Bruises bloom across your shoulders, your ribs ache, but you learn that hesitation is worse than pain. You also learn to growl while charging, because nothing unnerves a man more than being barreled into by someone who sounds like a bear. There's also the chanting. Hours of it. Men circle a fire, pounding on drums, stomping their feet, voices rising in unison until the rhythm seeps into your bones. You chant too, the words nonsense syllables mixed with Odin's name, until your body shakes and your head spins. Historians still debate whether these rituals were actual attempts to invoke gods or just psychological hacks to whip men into frenzy. Either way, it works. You leave the circle drenched in sweat, heart hammering, and convinced you could tear down a wall with your bare hands. Later that night, the wolf pelt still clinging to your shoulders, you crawl into the hall where the others sleep. The floor is sticky with spilled meat and scattered bones, the air thick with smoke. You try to lie still, but your body trembles as if it hasn't realized the battle is over. You roll onto your side and notice another young warrior staring at his own hands, flexing them like he can't believe they're attached to him. You know the feeling. It's not just exhaustion, it's transformation. One of the older berserkers leans up on an elbow and mutters, "Tomorrow, you'll howl louder. Tomorrow, you'll stop being afraid." His eyes are bloodshot, but his voice carries weight. You nod, though you're not sure if he's comforting you or warning you. As you drift towards sleep, the wolf pelt warms your back, the chanting still echoes in your ears, and you realize this life is not just about swinging an axe, it's about becoming something beyond human. Whether that's a blessing or a curse, you're not sure yet. But you do know this: every growl, every bite, every ritual is pulling you further from the boy you were, and closer to the beast you're supposed to become. The next few weeks blur into a haze of strange rituals and stomach-churning experiments. If the pelts and howling were about turning your body into a beast, now it's about what you put into that body. You quickly learn that berserkers don't just rely on muscle and bravado, they dabble in a wild cocktail of brews and herbs that make your head spin even before you step onto a battlefield. One evening, the veteran with the gray-streaked beard offers you a horn of something darker than mead. It smells sharp, almost sour, like rotten fruit mixed with smoke. You hesitate, but the others urge you on with cheers. The liquid burns your throat and sends a shiver racing down your spine. Within minutes, your skin prickles, and the firelight seems to stretch and shimmer. Laughter booms louder, shadows crawl across the walls, and your heart pounds as though it's sprinting ahead of you. That, the veteran grins, is the taste of frenzy. Historians still argue whether these substances were actually used: henbane seeds, fly agaric mushrooms, or just dangerously strong beer brewed in smoky huts. Some sagas describe berserkers biting their shields until they foamed at the mouth, which could have been a side effect of toxins, or, an early attempt at performance art. Either way, you're starting to understand how chemical chaos might help someone forget pain long enough to charge a shield wall. The mushrooms are the worst, or the best, depending on how much you enjoy feeling like your soul has slipped sideways. One night, you chew a piece of fly agaric, bright red with little white specks. At first, it tastes bitter, earthy, almost harmless. But then the world tilts. The drumbeats around the fire don't sound external anymore, they're inside your ribcage, shaking you from the inside out. You laugh at nothing, then cry at nothing, then snarl at everything. Your comrades howl with you, all of you collapsing into a heap of fur and madness. When you wake the next morning with a pounding skull and your face in the ashes, someone pats your back and says, "Welcome to the Brotherhood." One quirky tidbit: there's a theory that berserkers also drank mead laced with bog myrtle, a plant that's mildly intoxicating and has the lovely side effect of making people more aggressive. Imagine a Viking apothecary thinking, yes, what these already violent men need is a rage upgrade. It's questionable science, but the idea has survived in folklore. You notice that the concoctions aren't just about battle prep, they're also about community. Sharing the brew, passing mushrooms around, chanting together while the fire roars, it bonds you. You may be half delirious, but in those moments, you feel like your soul has been stitched into the same cloth as everyone else's. Fear doesn't exist in the circle. Only frenzy. Of course, not every experiment goes smoothly. Once, a young warrior takes too much of the herb mix and spends the night chasing goats through the village, convinced they're demons. Another time, a man chews on the wrong mushroom and can't stop vomiting until dawn. The others laugh, but you quietly take note. Being fearless is one thing, being reckless is another. Historians still debate whether berserkers were truly invincible or just too intoxicated to realize they'd been stabbed until it was too late. You practice mixing these states with training. You run drills after drinking, sword swinging clumsily at first, then sharper as adrenaline takes over. Your voice cracks into guttural shouts you didn't know you could make. Someone throws a log at you as a test, you smash it aside with your shield and roar, startling even yourself. For a moment, you're not acting anymore. For a moment, the beast feels real. Later, as the fire dies and the madness ebbs, you lie on your back staring at the stars. Your body aches, your head buzzes, but your mind is strangely clear. You remember the drill master's words, "The frenzy is a gift, but the control is the mastery." And lying there, with the taste of mushrooms still bitter on your tongue, you wonder if you'll ever find the balance between human and monster, or if you'll lose yourself to the brew entirely. The day of battle creeps closer, and the air in camp is heavy with anticipation. You wake before dawn, the sky a dull bruise of gray, and already men are pacing the shore. No one is calm. Everyone is preparing in their own way, and the rituals before the clash are as strange and unsettling as the ones that came before. You watch as a warrior chews on his shield again, gnashing with such force that flecks of wood spray into his beard. Another smears soot across his chest in jagged streaks, muttering to himself as if he's conversing with a god only he can hear. The veterans don't just sharpen their weapons, they talk to them, whispering oaths into the steel. You mimic them, awkwardly. Holding your axe close and whispering, "Please don't fail me," which probably isn't the heroic line sagas are made of, but hey, it's honest. Historians still argue whether these shield-biting frenzies were rehearsed theater or genuine madness. Either way, they scared the life out of onlookers. Imagine you're a farmer, seeing a pack of snarling men foaming at the mouth, hammering their chests with axes. At that point, you're halfway defeated before the first strike. The hours drag. Some men drink mead, others fast in silence. One quirky detail. A few warriors pace barefoot across burning embers, a test of both pain tolerance and bravado. You try it once, yelping on the third step. And the others roar with laughter. The pup still has soft paws. They jeer, but you grin too, because tomorrow, the ground itself won't feel like anything. You join the chants, voices rumbling so low the earth seems to vibrate. It's not a song with words, just a rolling growl, growing louder with every breath. You stamp your feet, your body syncing with the rhythm, your blood pumping faster. You realize this isn't just hype, it's a way of burning fear out of your system, leaving only the hunger for impact. Then comes the silence. It's sudden, eerie. The shouting stops, the drumming fades, and everyone just breathes. You can hear the waves lapping, the crackle of distant torches. You realize the frenzy is balanced by these moments of stillness, as though the storm is pausing to take a deep breath before it breaks, when the war leader finally strides into the circle. All eyes lock on him. His face is painted black, his cloak heavy with fur, and in his hand he carries a sword that gleams even in the weak morning light. He raises it high, and the silence shatters into roars. You roar too, surprising yourself with how deep and savage it sounds. You don't even recognize your own voice, the waiting is worse than the fighting. You feel your nerves scraping against your skin, your legs twitching to move. One man beside you rocks back and forth like a caged bear, while another bites his own arm until it bleeds. You glance down at your axe and catch yourself smiling, though you don't remember deciding to. The beast is closer now, breathing down your neck. As dawn sharpens into daylight, scouts return with news, the enemy is gathering not far inland. A rival clan, armed and ready. This isn't a helpless village, this is warriors meeting warriors. The veterans grin like wolves who've smelled fresh blood. You gulp, realizing the real test is about to begin. Someone starts the final chant. You join in, your voice raw, your throat burning. Shields thump, swords clash against wood, men howl at the sky. The frenzy builds like a wave, cresting higher and higher. And then, at the command, silence again. You feel your chest heaving, your hands trembling, but the fear has curdled into something else, something sharper, hungrier. You lock eyes with the veteran beside you. The one who gave you mushrooms and called you pup. He bares his teeth in a grin. Now, he says, you'll see if the beast has chosen you. The war horn blows. The sound cuts the morning like lightning, and everything inside you snaps. Your legs surge forward, your voice bursts out in a howl, and the waiting ends in a storm of motion. The battle is finally here. The sound of the war horn is still echoing in your ears when the shield wall looms ahead. It looks impenetrable, rows of round shields locked tight, spears bristling between the gaps. You can hear the thump of your comrades' feet pounding the earth, the ragged breaths, the howls tearing from throats that don't sound human anymore. You're one of them now, swept into the madness like a leaf in a storm. The clash comes like thunder. Your shield smashes into theirs, and the world turns into wood, iron, and flesh grinding together. Sparks fly as blades scrape, and the roar of voices is deafening. You push forward with everything you have, shoulder aching, teeth clenched. You feel the shield wall give. Just a little, then slam back against you like a wave. You don't retreat, you roar louder, press harder. The frenzy in you is awake now, urging you on like a fire in your veins. Historians still argue whether berserkers really fought without armor or if that's a saga exaggeration. Some say they wore only animal skins, charging bare-chested, too wild to care about wounds. Others believe it was poetic imagery. All you know is that right now, whether clothed or bare, you don't feel pain. A spear glances off your side, but your body ignores it, too drunk on adrenaline to notice. The shield wall splinters. You see a gap open, and instinct takes over. You hurl yourself into it, swinging your axe in wide arcs. Your howl rips through the din, and suddenly the enemy falters. Eyes widen as if they're seeing a beast, not a man. That's the power of the berserker trance, not just your strength, but the terror it plants in those facing you. A spear thrusts toward your chest. You twist, slam your shield aside, and the spearhead drives past harmlessly. Your axe answers, and the man falls. You don't have time to think about what you've done. Another warrior comes, then another. You meet them all with the same wild energy, your breath ragged, your vision narrowing until it's only you, your axe, and the endless rhythm of strike and block. One quirky tidbit. Some accounts claim berserkers could bite through iron. While you're pretty sure your teeth aren't quite that impressive, you do find yourself gnawing on your shield's rim between shouts, foam gathering at your lips. It feels absurd, yet powerful, like you're proving to yourself that you're no longer bound by ordinary limits. The battlefield is chaos. You hear the crack of wood, the scream of men, the thud of bodies hitting earth. But through it all, you feel strangely calm inside the frenzy, like the storm has a still center and you found it. Every strike is clear, every movement instinctive. Historians still debate whether this was madness, drugs, or simply the body's fight-or-flight system at its most extreme. You don't care. To you, it feels like possession, Odin himself lending you the strength of wolves and bears. Then comes the moment when the enemy line buckles completely. Your comrades surge forward, pouring through the gap, hacking and shoving. The enemy scatters, some fleeing, others falling to the ground with shields over their heads. Victory is close, you can smell it in the air, thick as the iron tang of blood. You slam your axe down again and again, until the resistance is gone. When you finally stop, chest heaving, you realize the field is littered with broken shields and still bodies. Smoke curls from torches dropped in the chaos. Crows circle overhead, already eyeing their feast. You stagger, your vision swimming, your throat raw from howling. Around you, the other berserkers are the same, wild-eyed, panting, their faces smeared with soot, blood, and sweat. The frenzy ebbs slowly, like a tide withdrawing. You blink, feeling the weight of your body again. Your arms ache, your legs tremble. You look down and realize your hands are sticky, though you don't remember when or how. The beast fades, leaving you hollow, but also strangely proud. You lived. You broke through. You didn't freeze. One of your comrades claps you on the shoulder so hard you nearly stumble. That's how a berserker fights, he growls, his grin wide and terrible. You nod, though your stomach churns as you glance again at the battlefield. Hero and monster. Maybe they're the same thing, depending on which side of the shield you stand. As the war horn blows again, signaling the retreat and the gathering of spoils, you follow the others back toward camp. Your body feels like lead, your ears ring, but inside, the beast still whispers, "Next time, it will be easier. Next time, you won't hesitate." The long walk back to camp feels heavier than the charge into battle ever did. Your legs drag, your arms tremble, and every part of you aches as the frenzy drains out. The field behind is still a mess of cries, wounded men begging for water, crows circling, the groans of the dying mingling with the shouts of victors. You don't look back often. The beast in you doesn't want to, but the man in you can't help glancing once or twice, guilt stirring beneath the hollow triumph. Back inside camp, the air is thick with smoke and sweat. Warriors slam their shields together in victory, their laughter hoarse, voices ragged from shouting. The skalds, those wandering poets and singers, are already composing in their heads. You can see it in their eyes. Tonight, they'll carve this day into words, making you sound braver, stronger, and more terrible than you felt in the moment. That's how legends are built. Someone hands you a drinking horn, and you gulp greedily, the liquid spilling down your chin. The taste is bitter, ale or mead, who cares? It burns your throat in the best way. Around you, warriors feast on roasted meat, tear bread with dirty hands, laugh too loudly, replaying the battle over and over, each telling a little more exaggerated, but for you and the other berserkers, the aftermath isn't all feasting. The frenzy leaves scars inside as well as out. You feel a deep exhaustion, heavier than sleep alone can cure. Some sagas describe it perfectly. Berserkers could fight with supernatural strength, but afterward they collapsed, weak as children. You feel that now. Your arms are leaden, your chest tight. The fire inside is gone, leaving only embers, and then comes something worse, shame, or maybe fear. You remember flashes, your axe swinging, the terror in the eyes of the man you struck, the taste of blood, too much like iron for comfort. You wonder, was it you, or was it the beast? Did Odin guide your hand, or did you lose control? Your comrades don't seem troubled. They howl and slap each other's backs, boasting of kills. One even gnaws on a strip of meat with the same intensity he bit his shield with earlier, foam still crusted at the corners of his mouth. To them, this is glory, pure and simple. But you feel the edge of something darker. The berserker rage doesn't care if it's enemy or friend. You vaguely remember almost swinging at one of your own before pulling back at the last second. The sagas weren't lying. Berserkers could be dangerous to allies as well. To ease the turmoil, you wander toward the Sycona again. The wise woman sits apart, as if untouched by the noise. Her fire crackles low, herbs smoldering in the embers. She doesn't look surprised to see you. She studies your face, then simply says, "The bear leaves its cave weaker than when it entered." You sink down beside her, too tired to argue. She offers you a bowl of broth. You sip slowly, the warmth settling your stomach. She hums under her breath, a chant that feels older than words. "The frenzy is a gift," she murmurs, but every gift from the gods has a price. You've tasted both now. Do you still want it? You don't answer right away. Part of you craves it already, the rush, the power, the way men scattered before you like frightened sheep. But another part recoils from it, remembering how close you came to losing yourself completely. The Psychona seems to read your thoughts. The wolf doesn't ask if it should hunt, she says, but you are not only a wolf. You are a man. Remember both, or you'll lose one forever. That night, when the camp finally quiets, you lie awake under the stars. Around you, men snore loudly, the fire cracks, and the sound of feasting has faded into the occasional hiccup or cough. You stare at the sky, where the northern lights shimmer faintly, a curtain of green and purple, like the gods watching from above. You remember what the skalds say, that Odin himself sent the berserkers into battle, filling them with his spirit. But you also remember whispers of another view, that berserker rage was more curse than blessing, a madness no one fully understood. Some called it witchcraft, others compared it to sickness. Sleep eventually claims you, but it's not gentle. You dream of wolves running through forests, of bears crushing men with a single swipe, of your own reflection with eyes glowing like fire. In the dream, you can't tell whether you're the hunter or the hunted. You wake before dawn, your throat dry, your chest heavy, the question still unanswered. The next day, the warriors rise, pack their spoils, and prepare to move on. The battle is already fading into memory, except for the scars on your body and the whispers in your mind. As you shoulder your gear, you realize something: this path isn't just about fighting. It's about learning how to live with the beast, to master it instead of being consumed. The journey of a berserker doesn't end on the battlefield, it follows you into every fire-lit hall, every feast, every restless night. The saga of your rage is still being written, and you're not sure yet whether you'll end as hero, monster, or both. The feast hall is alive with heat, smoke, and laughter. You push through the thick wooden doors, the scent of roasting meat washing over you in a wave that makes your stomach growl despite the knot of unease still sitting inside it. Benches are crammed with warriors, their faces shining with sweat and drink, their voices echoing against the rafters as if the timbers themselves are joining the celebration. Torches flare along the walls, throwing shadows that leap like spirits of the slain. You slide onto a bench, a heavy slab of bread shoved into your hand before you can even greet the men beside you. Soon a horn of meat follows, its rim sticky with honey. Someone bangs the table, calling for silence. Though nobody really stops talking until the skald stands, the skald, always dressed a little differently, a little grander than the rest, clears his throat, and the noise dips just enough for his voice to carry. He launches into a song, weaving words about the day's raid, how the shield wall splintered, how berserkers, yes, that means you, tore through the enemy like a storm through trees. Each verse grows grander, every detail inflated. You know you didn't leap 10 feet in the air, but that's what the verse says, and nobody here is going to argue with a good story when the ale is flowing. Everyone roars with approval. They slap your back, toast your name, call you bear, wolf, monster. Half insult, half highest honor. You grin because it's expected, but deep inside, you feel the weight of those words. Monster. They mean it fondly tonight, but monsters aren't always welcomed at the hearth. Still, the food and drink keep coming. Platters of lamb, roasted fowl, and fish pulled fresh from the fjord appear, steaming and sizzling, and you eat with the hunger of someone who has poured out every last drop of energy. Grease drips down your chin, and you laugh with the others as someone tells a ridiculous story about a goat that supposedly defeated a Saxon warrior. But beneath the noise, the whispers are there too. You hear them when voices drop low, when someone leans closer to a friend. Some men praise your fury, others murmur about how you nearly struck down one of your own in the frenzy. You don't catch every word, but you know the tone, the mixture of awe and unease. You've seen it before. You'll see it again. It's not all grim, though. A younger warrior, not yet blooded in battle, stares at you with wide eyes, as if you're a walking saga made flesh. He asks if it's true that berserkers drink wolf's blood before a fight. You chuckle and tell him no, at least, not usually, but you let the rumor linger. Why ruin the mystery? After all, part of a berserker's strength lies in the fear and fascination they inspire. Historians still argue whether the berserker image, biting shields, foaming at the mouth, wearing animal pelts, was ritual, reality, or exaggeration. Sitting here in the hall, you realize it doesn't matter much. The story is the thing. The more frightening and strange, the more it spreads, and the more power it gives you before you even lift your axe. The night stretches on. Drinking contests erupt, men challenge each other to arm wrestles that end with overturned mugs and splintered benches. One of your comrades leaps onto the table, performing a staggering dance while balancing a horn on his head. The hall erupts in laughter when he inevitably crashes down, rolling to the floor with a grin and a cheer. You join in the noise, though the drink hits you differently now than before. You've seen too much battle to lose yourself completely in it. A hollow part of you lingers, watching the joy, the camaraderie, the sheer noisy life of it all, and wondering if you'll ever truly belong in these moments. Later, when the fire has burned low and many of the men have collapsed into drunken sleep where they sat, you remain awake, the last sips of mead swirling in your horn. The shadows in the hall are long and soft now, and the skald, half asleep, hums an unfinished verse. You lean back against the timber, your eyes heavy, thinking of how easily this laughter turns into fear. You become legend and warning in equal measure. To some, you're the hero of the night, to others, you're the edge of something dangerous, best celebrated at a distance. Tomorrow, the stories told here will spread to other halls, other ears. Your name will grow, but so will the unease. For now, though, you let the warmth of the fire and the distant snores wrap around you like a blanket. The hall is quiet, the storm of voices reduced to a murmur, and for just this moment, you feel at peace. The hall is empty when you wake, benches littered with bones, spilled meat sticky on the floorboards, and warriors sprawled like fallen logs. Your head throbs faintly, but not from drink. The berserker's body doesn't seem to hold ale the way others do. You stretch, joints creaking, and for a moment, you almost believe you could slip back into the life of an ordinary villager. That illusion fades quickly once you leave the hall. Outside, the village bustles with the rhythm of survival, women tending fires, children chasing each other through the mud, men repairing nets and sharpening tools. A neighbor calls your name with forced cheer, offering you a loaf of bread. The way her eyes flicker downward, not quite meeting yours, tells you all you need to know. She remembers yesterday's frenzy. Everyone does. You take the bread, thank her softly, but the silence afterward is louder than any shout. You walk on, feeling the space around you, how villagers step aside just a little too quickly, how conversations quiet as you pass. You're both protector and threat, and they don't know which version of you will appear at any given moment. Truthfully, neither do you. At the edge of the village, you try chopping wood, the simple task grounding you. But the rhythm of axe against log pulls you into memory, your arms swinging, not at timber, but at men. The sound is too close to bone splitting. You stop, breath ragged, and set the axe aside. Evenings bring more tension. You sit at the hearth with your family, if you're lucky enough to have one, or with whatever kin remains. They listen politely as you tell fragments of your raids, but you see the unease in their eyes. Children edge closer out of fascination, only to be pulled back by worried mothers. You wish you could tell them about the quiet moments, the stars over the sea, the feel of earth beneath your boots after a storm. Instead, the stories that spill from you are all rage and violence. Those are the stories they expect. Those are the ones that leave you lonelier with every telling. Love doesn't come easy either. The sagas never bother much with berserkers' wives, but you wonder about them. Who could rest easy beside someone who howls in dreams, who might wake with clenched fists and wild eyes? You try once, sharing a bed with someone kind, someone who wants to believe you can be gentle. For a while, you almost succeed. But one night, you jolt awake mid-dream, hands gripping too tightly, and you see her terror. She doesn't return after that. You can't blame her. Historians still argue whether berserkers lived mostly apart from society, like outcasts, or whether they blended back into village life between raids. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. You feel it every day, the pull toward the hearth, the longing for simple peace, and the equal pull away, back to battle where your rage feels like purpose. Some evenings, you find yourself walking alone by the shore. The waves crash steady, untroubled, uncaring. You wonder if the sea understands you better than people do, wild, unpredictable, dangerous yet necessary. You hurl stones into the surf until your arms ache, as if you can fling the beast out of you one rock at a time. The village still needs you. When raiders threaten or when the chieftain calls for warriors, no one questions your place. They need the berserker as much as they fear him. You see it in their eyes, gratitude when you stand before them, dread when you sit among them. Both truths exist, and you carry them like twin weights. One night, you overhear children whispering about you, daring each other to creep closer while you rest. You catch the word monster again, spoken with both thrill and fear. You smile faintly in the dark, though it cuts deep. A monster protects them, after all. A monster keeps them safe. But who keeps the monster safe? You long for softness, love, companionship, the warmth of truly belonging, but every time you reach for it, the memory of the frenzy pulls you back. It's not that you don't want it. It's that you're not sure you're capable of it anymore, so, you walk between worlds, half man, half beast, always feared, always needed, never quite at home. Loneliness becomes another companion, as steady as your axe, as constant as the scars on your body. And somewhere inside, you wonder if this is the true price of the berserker's path, not death in battle, but life outside it, half alive, half apart. The summons comes not with gentle words but with the pounding of a messenger's staff at dawn. You're wanted in the great hall, where the chieftain waits, flanked by his huskarls. When a king, or someone who thinks himself close enough, calls, you don't hesitate. You sling your cloak, tighten the strap of your axe, and make your way through the misty morning. Inside the hall, the atmosphere is different from the raucous village feasts. Here, the air is thick with authority. The king, or jarl, depending on which saga you prefer, sits high on a carved chair, runes etched along the wood, a wolf pelt draped across his shoulders. His eyes glitter as he studies you. Around him, men whisper. Weighing your worth like you're both treasure and threat, you kneel, because custom demands it, though your muscles resist the posture. The king leans forward. They say you fought like Odin's own storm, he says, voice carrying across the hall. They say men fell before you as if struck by lightning. I have need of such power. There it is, kings and chieftains covet berserkers. To them, you're the edge that tips the scale, the secret weapon they can unleash when victory seems uncertain. They offer gold, land, sometimes even marriage alliances, though those usually fall through when people remember the awkward problem of sleeping beside someone who bites shields for fun. You nod. Accept his meed, and pledge your strength. But even as you do, you sense the caution in his eyes. He wants your rage pointed outward, never inward. One wrong glance, one wrong movement, and you'd be seen less as ally and more as a fire that needs extinguishing. Historians still argue how formal the relationship between kings and berserkers really was. Some sources claim berserkers were part of elite royal guards, fearsome warriors who stood closest to the throne. Others think kings merely tolerated them, using their fury when convenient, discarding them when peace demanded civility. Either way, you know the truth in your bones. You're valued, but never trusted completely. At the next feast, you sit closer to the throne than most, your horn filled before others, your deeds praised in loud verses. But you notice the space around you, no one sits too close. Even as they clap your shoulder and toast your name, they lean back just a little, as if distance could protect them should the frenzy flare again. The king himself plays both sides expertly. He showers you with coin, perhaps even gifts of armor or weapons forged by the best smiths. Yet he also surrounds you with subtle guards, men whose eyes never leave you, whose hands linger too long on their sword hilts. It's a dance of honor and suspicion, respect and fear. One evening, a rival lord visits the hall, and you can feel the tension in the air before a word is spoken. The king, sensing an opportunity, places a heavy hand on your shoulder. "This is my berserker," he says, voice sharp as steel. "Do you see the strength at my side?" The rival lord nods politely, but his eyes flicker. Yes, he sees, and he's unsettled. That's the point. You're not just a warrior, you're living intimidation, a breathing promise of chaos. Yet the role wears on you. Being a king's weapon means being bound by his whims. Today you fight for his honor, tomorrow for his gold, the day after for his grudge against another noble. Your fury is your own, but your target is chosen for you. Freedom tastes bitter when it's yoked to power. In quieter moments, you wonder what happens when kings no longer need men like you. Already you've heard whispers of settlements, of peace treaties with distant lands, of new gods preaching against blood fury. A king who wants stability cannot always afford a berserker in his hall. You imagine being cast aside, once prized, then outlawed. Still, tonight, you drink from the king's horn, feel the weight of his court's gaze. And know your place in the web of power. You are both honored guest and chained beast, paraded for advantage, restrained by fear. And though the meat tastes rich and the gold gleams bright, a shadow lingers. Loyalty and coin can bind you only so long before the rage demands something more. It begins slowly, the way storms always do, first a whisper, then a murmur, until the whole village feels the air heavy with it. At first, it's just talk, that berserkers bring as much danger as protection, that the frenzy cannot be controlled, that the gods themselves may frown on men who blur the line between warrior and beast. One evening in the hall, you catch the drift of a conversation you weren't meant to hear. A farmer, his voice thick with ale, says, "We cheer them now, but who will stop them if they turn on us?" The words hang in the smoky air, followed by uneasy silence. Nobody argues. That silence tells you more than any chorus of cheers ever could. The law begins to shift. Edicts are carved into wood or spoken by law speakers at the thing, the great assembly where disputes are settled. There, you hear it announced, berserkers who challenge men in peacetime, who draw weapons in anger within a hall, who kill without battle's call, will be outlawed. Outlawry isn't just a punishment, it's erasure. No one may feed you, shelter you, or trade with you. To be outlawed is to be hunted, your death a favor to the law. Historians still argue how strictly these laws were enforced. Some sagas say berserkers were driven out entirely, while others suggest that kings kept them close despite official bans. The truth, as always, probably lies in the messy middle. But you don't need scholars to tell you what you feel now, the ground shifting under your feet. The people who once toasted your name now whispering it with caution. One day, a neighbor's son runs screaming when you walk by, convinced your shadow alone will bite him. His mother apologizes, but her eyes show no surprise. Another time, a drunkard challenges you in the hall, daring you to prove your madness. You know better than to answer, but part of you aches to let the frenzy loose, to remind them why they once trembled. You bite your tongue instead. Even kings grow wary. The same ruler who once flaunted you as his prized hound now hesitates before summoning you. His court is divided, some see you as essential, others as a liability. You are a blade too sharp to leave sheathed, yet too wild to wield without risk. At night, you remember the old tales, how some berserkers, cast out, roamed the forests, living half like wolves, surviving on what they could hunt or steal. You wonder if that fate waits for you, the slow fade from honored warrior to wandering outlaw. There's irony here. The rage that once made you invaluable is the same rage that now threatens your place. Society wants your fire but not the risk of being burned. You're both celebrated and condemned. Often in the same breath, in the quiet after another feast, the Psychona finds you again. She studies you with that same steady gaze. They will always fear what they cannot tame, she says softly. The bear is mighty in battle, but too dangerous in the yard. Her words strike deep, because you know she's right. You've built a life on being untamable, and now the world wants nothing more than to put reins on you, or drive you out altogether. So, you walk carefully now, every step weighed, every word measured. You smile when expected, nod when praised, swallow when mocked. You keep the beast caged, though you feel its claws scratching at the bars, restless and hungry, and all the while. You wonder, how long before the cage breaks, and whether, when it does, the law will call you warrior or criminal. The shift is subtle at first, like frost creeping along a windowpane. You hear murmurs in the marketplace of new gods, strange men in plain robes preaching about peace, humility, and forgiveness. Their cross is small, their words quiet, but their presence grows. Where once Odin's name echoed in every hall, now whispers of Christ travel like smoke. At first, you dismiss it. What could this meek God of love and mercy have to do with warriors? Yet the tide moves faster than you expect. A chieftain accepts baptism, a neighboring king allows churches to rise, and priests begin to stand where skalds once did. They tell the people that berserkers are not touched by Odin, but by demons. That your frenzy is not holy madness, but possession. One evening, a priest confronts you openly, his voice calm but firm. You fight like a beast, but God made men, not beasts. You must leave behind your rage, or lose your soul. The hall grows quiet around you. Once, such words might have earned him a fist to the jaw, but now you feel every eye watching, weighing your response. Historians still argue whether Christianity alone ended the berserker tradition, or if the decline had already begun through law and shifting culture. But standing there, you sense the truth in your bones. Faith is rewriting the story of men like you. Where once you were Odin's chosen, now you're cast as devil's thrall. You retreat into thought more often. Nights spent staring at the fire stretch long, your mind restless. Was it truly Odin who filled you with frenzy, or something darker? Was it you at all? You recall the Psychona's warnings, the way she spoke of gifts that demand a price. Perhaps she, too, saw this reckoning coming. Yet not all villagers turn from you. Some still bring offerings, asking you to bless their ventures with your strength. Others invite you to drink, hoping to hear your stories again. They live between two worlds, half tied to the old gods, half pulled toward the new. And you? You are caught in the middle, straddling faiths as you straddle man and beast. There's a weight in this new faith that gnaws at you. It promises peace, rest, forgiveness, all things you secretly crave. But it also demands you deny what you are. Could you ever truly turn away from the frenzy, as if it were just a cloak to be shed? Or is it carved too deep into your bones? One night, you dream of Odin, one eye gleaming as he watches from the high seat. He does not speak, but his raven croaks harshly, feathers scattering like shadows. Then the dream shifts, a figure in white robes, carrying light, extending a hand. You wake sweating, torn between two gods, two destinies. The village, too, wavers. Some cling to your presence, seeing in you the old strength that kept them safe. Others murmur that your very existence invites the wrath of the new god. Children cross themselves when you pass, just as they once whispered monster. Fear takes new shapes but never truly leaves. In this limbo, you find yourself questioning more than ever. If Odin gave you the frenzy, why does it leave you hollow afterward? If Christ condemns it, does that mean all your victories were sin? And if both are silent, where does that leave you, the sea offers no answers. Neither does the forest. Yet you keep walking, listening to both gods and hearing neither clearly. Your path has never been simple, and now it feels like it belongs less to you than ever before. The years pass, and with them, the balance shifts further. Where once the clang of hammer on shield marked every festival, now bells ring from wooden towers the priests have raised. The people kneel not before Thor's hammer or Odin's spear, but before a cross. Yet though the world around you bends toward this new order, your own spirit remains split. You are older now. The fire in your chest still sparks when you let it, but it no longer roars as it once did. The frenzy comes slower, and when it does, your body aches afterward. You notice that your scars do not heal as swiftly, that your breath lingers ragged. Younger men, bold and eager, step forward to fight while you stand more often at the edges. They call themselves warriors, not berserkers. Already, the word is slipping into the past. Sometimes, they look at you with a mix of reverence and pity. Reverence for what you once embodied, pity for the way the world has turned against you. In their eyes, you are a legend fading before it has finished being written. It is not only age and faith that threaten you. The law itself sharpens against your kind. Decrees spread across the north. Those who give in to berserker frenzy shall be outlawed, cast from the community, denied rights. Once, your rages brought honor. Now, they bring exile. The world has no place for a man who lets his fury consume him, and yet, there are still moments. A raid led by a stubborn jarl who clings to the old ways. A brawl in which your fist finds its mark faster than thought. A winter's night when meat burns hot and someone dares you to show the frenzy one last time. When it comes, it feels like fire returning to cold embers, brief and blinding. But it leaves you shaken, not proud. You begin to wonder if the priests are right. Perhaps it is not Odin who filled you, but something darker. Perhaps you have been chained to a curse rather than blessed with a gift. You think often of death. Not as fear, but as a puzzle. Will Odin's Valkyries still come for you, now that fewer believe in him? Or will the Christian God judge you unworthy, sending you to punishment? In the quiet hours, when your body aches and your mind drifts, you imagine standing at the gates of both afterlives, turned away from each. Where, then, does a berserker go? The village has changed, too. Children are taught prayers instead of sagas. Skalds grow fewer, their songs fading under hymns. The Psychona, old and frail, no longer dares speak her rights aloud. When she dies, you feel a thread snap inside you, the last tie to a world that once made sense. Still, you carry yourself with pride. Even if the world no longer honors berserkers, you will not crawl from it in shame. When people meet your eyes, they still see the fire, dulled though it may be. When you walk through the hall, space still opens around you, for memory is a stubborn thing. On rare nights, the old gods still whisper in your dreams. Odin on his throne, ravens perched close. Thor's hammer echoing like distant thunder. They do not comfort you, they do not explain. They simply remind you that once, you were their chosen. Whether blessing or curse, it was real, and so you endure, standing between fading glory and uncertain faith, carrying a title that once meant terror and now means relic. You are not sure which weighs heavier. But you know this, you have lived as few men ever dared. You have felt the storm inside your own veins, walked the line between man and beast, and seen the world bend beneath your roar. Whatever else fades, that cannot be taken from you. The seasons continue to wheel, and with each passing year, you feel them more keenly in your bones. Once, you shrugged off frost as though you were carved from the very ice. Now, your joints stiffen in winter, and your breath fogs heavy in the cold. It is humbling, this slow surrender of the body, though you try not to admit it. You tell yourself that even wolves grow gray, and yet a gray wolf is still a wolf. The young ones call you the old berserker. You can hear the weight of both respect and dismissal in the phrase. To them, you are a living story, someone their grandfathers fought beside, someone who once split shields with bare hands. Yet they no longer look to you for leadership. Their world is not one of raids and frenzies, but of farms, churches, and markets. They fight still, but as soldiers, not as storm-born terrors. Your place in the longhouse has shifted. Once, you strode into the center, dripping sweat and blood, the feast pausing around you. Now, you sit nearer to the fire, welcomed but rarely the focus. The hall roars with tales of voyages to England and France, of silver traded for furs, of alliances forged by marriage rather than battle. You sip your mead slowly, nodding when expected, adding a quiet word when memory serves, and yet, not all is lost. There are still nights when the young urge you to tell them of the old ways. You describe the frenzy. How the world turned red and every sound sharpened like a blade. You explain the feeling of flesh and steel yielding before your strikes. Their eyes widen, some lean closer, hungry for echoes of glory. Others laugh nervously, uncertain whether to believe. You don't blame them. If you hadn't lived it, you might not believe either. A few still ask if you would show them. You shake your head. You know the frenzy, if it comes, will not leave you whole. The heart strains harder now, the breath shortens. You fear that one last frenzy might kill you outright. And though part of you would welcome such an end, dying as you lived, another part clings to these quieter days. Outside, the land itself changes. More churches rise, their bells louder, their crosses taller. The old shrines crumble, moss and weeds reclaiming what once was sacred. Some say this is progress, the way forward. You remain unconvinced. Progress feels more like erasure, like waking to find that half your life has been written over in ink you cannot read. Historians, centuries from now, will argue about men like you. Were berserkers truly possessed of unearthly strength, or were they simply skilled warriors who embraced fearlessness? Were the frenzies a gift of gods, or the result of mushrooms, herbs, and trickery? You know the answer in your own blood, though it will never be written in their scrolls. They can argue all they want, you have lived what they only study, and then there are the whispers. Some say you and your kind are cursed, marked by demons. Others insist you are chosen, vessels of a god whose voice grows faint. Even now, you cannot say for certain. What you do know is that when you close your eyes, you can still hear the heartbeat of the frenzy. Faint but steady, like a drum calling from far away, in the quiet of night, when the village sleeps, you sometimes walk alone to the edge of the woods. There, where the trees stretch dark against the sky, you let yourself remember. You breathe the scent of pine, the bite of cold air, and for a moment, you are young again, teeth bared, heart pounding, the world trembling beneath you. Then the moment fades, and you are left with silence. You wonder if this is how the world will always treat warriors. Used while they burn brightest, then set aside as the fire dwindles. You don't feel bitter, not exactly. Just aware. A berserker is not meant to grow old. You have done so anyway, stubborn as a wolf refusing to lie down. Perhaps that itself is victory. The thought makes you smile sometimes, faint but real. You, who should have died 100 times over, still stand. And though the world may no longer want berserkers, it cannot erase the fact that you were one. That you are one, even now, and so you carry on, neither feared nor fully forgotten, a relic that still breathes. The saga of the berserker dwindles around you, but you hold its ember in your chest. Not to rage, not to terrify, but to remember. The end does not come with battle. It comes with twilight. The air grows cooler with each autumn, the nights stretching longer, the mornings slower. Your hands, once quick as striking hawks, tremble when you hold a cup. Your legs ache after only a short walk across the village. You feel the body preparing to set aside its burdens, like a warrior unbuckling his armor for the last time. You are not afraid, though. Perhaps you should be, but after all you have lived, death feels more like an old companion than an enemy. You think of those you fought beside, long since fallen. Their names drift in your dreams, and you feel them near, waiting just beyond the mist. Sometimes, you wonder where you will go. Will Odin's Valkyries still sweep you to Valhalla, though fewer call his name? Or will the Christian God claim you, weighing your frenzies against your prayers? Historians still argue whether men like you were seen as holy warriors or dangerous outcasts, but none of them ever felt what it was like to stand at that thin line between man and beast. You smile, knowing that the scholars will never settle that debate. Not truly. On a final winter night, you sit before the fire. The hall is quieter than you remember it, perhaps it always was, and it was you who roared loud enough to drown it out. The younger folk glance your way, but do not disturb you. They know what the stillness in your gaze means. You are listening for something they cannot hear, and in that silence, you hear it. The faint drumbeat, the same rhythm that once thundered through your chest. Not rage now, not frenzy, just a heartbeat, steady and calm. You close your eyes, and for the first time, you feel at peace. The world has shifted beyond you. The sagas of berserkers will be told less and less, until they fade into legend, then into doubt. But you know the truth, you lived it. You carried the storm in your veins, you felt the god's breath in your lungs. Whatever else is forgotten, that will remain written in the marrow of the earth. Your last thought is simple, not fear, not regret, but pride, and then, the fire dims, the hall fades, and you are gone, and so, as your story closes, the pace softens, and the storm that has carried you for so long finally falls still. You have walked through frost and fire, through blood and silence, through the long fading of a way of life. Now, in the quiet, there is only rest. Breathe deeply. Let your chest rise and fall, like the tide against a northern shore. Feel the weight of the day ease from your shoulders, slipping away the way old armor falls from tired hands. Every scar you once carried, every ache, every sharp edge of memory, softens now into something gentler. Imagine the hall around you emptying of noise, the echoes fading until only the crackle of the hearth remains. The fire burns low, its glow warm and steady, painting the walls in slow, shifting patterns. You are safe here. No battles wait beyond the door, no horns calling you to war, no eyes expecting you to rage again. Only stillness. Outside, the night settles heavy. And snow drifts down, silent as feathers. You feel it in your breath, cool and calming. You are not the berserker now, not the warrior, not the legend. You are simply a soul at peace, carried gently into whatever waits beyond. Let that peace carry you, too. Let the last traces of tension leave your body, as if you, too, are laying down arms after a long, unending war. There is no need to fight the sleep that approaches, it is your ally, not your foe. Close your eyes. Let the hush of history wrap around you like a cloak, warm and protective. And drift now, into dreams, as softly as the snow.